Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying this slightly shorter week that we've had. Welcome again to this week's edition of Cinnabar's Market Recap, where we will run through a few of the select events that have influenced the markets over the past week. We're going to examine the recent political outcomes and their effects on the South African economy, and then additionally, we're going to highlight the global development where a company has ascended to becoming the world's most valuable. So some fantastic news to start your Wednesday. The South African Rand reached its highest level in nearly a year, breaking below the 18 Rand to the dollar barrier, as the country moves towards an official government of national unity. This follows the successful election of the leaders by the ANC, DA, IFP bloc, appointments in the National Council of Provinces, and the upcoming inauguration of President Ramaphosa. Investors are closely monitoring the size and composition of the new cabinet, with the Rand's strength attributed to post-election stability. South Africa's inflation rate remained steady in May, increasing the likelihood that the central bank will maintain borrowing costs. Consumer prices rose by an annual 5.2% last month, consistent with April's figures. The steady reading will likely persuade the Monetary Policy Committee, which meets in mid-July, to keep the benchmark rate at a 15-year high of 8.25%. Governor Lesesha Kganyago has maintained that borrowing costs will only be reduced once inflation rate is firmly at the midpoint range of around 3 to 6%. Current forward rate agreements show traders are pricing in a 36% chance of a 25 basis point cut in July, up from a 20% before the data was released. Then some very interesting news on the green energy front. Hive Hydrogen South Africa is targeting investment from major Japanese companies for its $5.9 billion green ammonia project. As a leading initiative for green hydrogen production in South Africa, Hive Hydrogen aims to decarbonize heavy industry and shipping. Unlike neighboring Namibia's projects focused on European exports, Hive plans to sell its output primarily to Japan and South Korea. The plant intends to use the Nkukura deep water port for exporting ammonia, with a final decision expected next year. Some good news for US consumers, as well as the Reserve Bank, I'm sure. The May Consumer Price Index report showed easing overall inflation, primarily due to declining gas prices, while core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy costs, remains elevated. This release comes after a strong employment report and coincides with the Federal Reserve's June meeting, where no interest rate cuts are expected. The US dollar is, however, preparing for heightened volatility, as any surprises in the upcoming US inflation report could significantly influence market expectations regarding Federal Reserve interest rate cuts anticipated in September. Then switching over to uranium, where there's a bit of a fever that has taken over. The price of uranium has skyrocketed by 233% over the past 5 years, reflecting a renewed global interest in nuclear power driven by climate change concerns and geopolitical tensions. Following the 2011 Fukushima disaster, nuclear energy was largely abandoned due to safety fears, relegating uranium to a niche position in the commodities market. However, the intensifying climate crisis and the need for steady carbon-free power have led to a resurgence in nuclear energy. This shift accelerated dramatically after Putin's invasion of Ukraine, which underscored the need for alternatives to Russian energy. Currently, 61 nuclear power plants are under construction worldwide, with another 19 planning and over 300 proposed, alongside efforts to reopen old plants. The uranium boom has also ignited a frenzy in the stock market, with traders driving up the value of uranium mining companies. Canadian miners, in particular, have seen their shares surge over 400% in the past 4 years. NextGen, despite not having sold any uranium yet, are not expecting to do so until 2028, now boasts a market value of almost $4 billion. Then Nvidia has surpassed Microsoft to become the world's most valuable company on Tuesday, with its stock rising 3.5% to over $135 per share, giving it a market cap of over $3.33 trillion. Meanwhile, Microsoft market cap fell to nearly $3.32 trillion after a 0.4% decline. Nvidia stock has soared by 215% over the past year and 3,400% over the past 5 years, significantly outpacing Microsoft's 19% rise in 2024. Nvidia's surge has heavily influenced the S&P, contributing about one-third of the index's year-to-date rise, and has led to the S&P reaching brand new highs. Thank you again for tuning into this week's edition of Cinnabar's Market Recap. We've delved into significant political developments shaping the South African economy and explored the global scene where a new company has emerged as the most valuable in the world. Stay informed and join us next week for more insights and updates on the market's most impactful events. Have a great week ahead.